offer doesn't apply to most people, but it does indicate the pressure that energy prices will be under this year. And obviously it applies in New South Wales, in South Australia and South East Queensland. But it does indicate, as I said, the sorts of pressures that will be on energy prices right across the board. Let me make a couple of points. Firstly, these are big increases. That should be acknowledged, and they will hurt for many families. Secondly, these increases would have been much, much higher without the intervention of the Albanese government last year, working with the governments particularly of New South Wales and Queensland. These interventions last year were absolutely vital. As the regulator herself has made clear this morning, in the absence of intervention, these sorts of increases would have had potentially a 5 in front of it, not a 2 in front of them. These increases of 50% that the government was looking at last year would have crippled many businesses and been a crushing blow to Australian families. Hence, we took the intervention we did last year. A couple of other brief points. This was an intervention that was controversial. Mr Dutton and the Liberal Party voted against it. If they had their way, if the Liberal Party had their way, these increases would have been 50%, not 20%. They walked into the Parliament and voted against these interventions. They walked into the Parliament and voted for even higher price rises. That's what the Liberal Party wanted. Secondly, of course, there is more relief yet to flow. The Treasurer, Dr Chalmers, is negotiating with all his state and territory colleagues the rebates that will be in the federal budget. Those rebates will provide further relief over and above the package of interventions that we announced last year. The final point I'd make is this. This is a default market offer. It happens every year. The equivalent was hidden by Angus Taylor last year. Angus Taylor, in the most cynical move I've seen in a long time in politics, changed the law to hide the default market offer increases from a short time before the last election to just after the last election. He actually issued a law change to keep the increases last year, which were similar to these, hidden and secret until after the election. This is a man who wants to be the Treasurer of Australia. He can't be trusted with a jar of 5-cent pieces, let alone the Australian economy, because he is fundamentally dishonest with the Australian people. His track record will hang around his neck for his entire political career when it comes to the dishonesty he showed in hiding these equivalent increases last year. We have a very different approach. We won't hide increases, we'll deal with them. We've dealt with them in the intervention, we'll deal with them in the rebates, we'll be honest with the Australian people about the pressures in the system, pressures on energy prices in Australia and around the world, and we will also deal with them by the sorts of interventions that we have announced and will continue to work on. Happy to take questions. Well, obviously we'll keep the situation under careful monitoring. Who knows, frankly, what the situation in the global energy markets is with the invasion of Ukraine and the weaponisation of energy. We've indicated that we will have ongoing discussions about a gas mandatory code of conduct. Those discussions continue primarily between me and my department, the ACCC, and the key players. We'll have more to say about that going forward. But obviously, this was an intervention for a particular time and a particular set of circumstances. We'll need to monitor how those international circumstances change in coming years.
ACCC is calling for emergency payments for debt relief for people who can't afford to pay these increased costs. Can you provide any direct relief to consumers who need it?
Well, direct relief is exactly what will be in the budget in relation to the energy price relief that the Treasurer is working through with his state and territory colleagues. We outlined the, if you like, the guidelines, the contours for that last year, but obviously there's a lot of detailed negotiation to go into that, and that is exactly what we're working on, and we will deliver in the budget. We had a two-step process, intervening to cap coal and gas prices, not universally popular with coal and gas companies, but had to be done, not supported by the opposition, had to be done, and then the bill relief, of course, that will be in the budget.
Please.
So the coalition is suggesting that as a result of capping coal and gas prices, that in the longer run this will in fact push up prices. What do you make of that?
Well, I invite the coalition to have a look in the mirror. I mean, here you had the independent energy regulator this morning pointing out that without the intervention, the increases would have been closer to 50%. An intervention that Mr Dutton opposed, like he opposes absolutely everything. I mean, you can't complain about high energy prices and then vote for higher energy prices. Now, we've carefully calibrated these interventions. We've worked through them very carefully. Mr Dutton and his bunch of irrelevancies put themselves out of the process, opposed the package and did not enter any discussions with the government.
That's where we leave Chris Bowen there, defending what the government has done so far, saying if these caps were not in place, that power prices would have been a lot higher.